Hey everyone, Mozart here. I'd like to welcome you all to the final reading of Five Nights at Freddy's The Next Generation. I hope you'll all agree with me when I say that Pandas has written an amazing story, and I look forward to seeing what she'll come up with in the future. Right now, though, we have a story to finish. We walked towards the parts service room and went past Kid's Cove. Mom had her head in her hands, sitting next to Chica, who was offering pizza to her. I pushed the urge to give her a hug aside and ventured on. I knocked on the door and a familiar airy voice came from inside. I pushed open the door and flipped the light switch. The puppet was sitting at a desk, reading some papers. "Foxina, I have been expecting you. Your father is going into repair soon, but you can go inside and see him. Also, I know this is a hard time to ask, but will you babysit my daughter, Penelope?" the puppet asked quietly. I didn't recall the puppet having a daughter, but if he had read my mind, he answered my question. "I have a 3-year-old daughter now, and she is very precious to me. Do you think you can look after her tonight, as I am busy signing papers for Foxy's repair?" I nodded and went inside the room where Dad was. When I opened the door, Dad was lying on a repair table and had a patch on his leaking area. He looked up, and when he saw me, I saw a single tear roll down his cheek. "Lassie, you're here. I thought you wouldn't have cared," Dad shouted, hugging me like there was no tomorrow. I looked at his big orange eyes with my dark brown ones. "I could never, Daddy. How could I not care about you? I love you. Don't you ever forget that," I whispered in his ear. Dad tried to sit up, but he clutched his patch and groaned. I lied him down again and started to act like a nurse. "No, Dad, you need to lie down and rest. Please, do it for me and Mom," I whimpered with my big puppy eyes. He chuckled and closed his eyes. "I love you, Lassie, and tell your mother not to worry." His words trailed off as he fell asleep. I slipped out of the room as quiet as a mouse. I quickly shut the door before looking through the glass at my father peacefully sleeping in the dark room. My lips began to tremble, and a single tear fell down my face. I bit down on my lip hard, but Frank put his hand on my shoulder, making me push my depression to the side. Just as I wiped away my tear, I had a brainwave. I grabbed Frank's hand and rushed him to the backstage area. He seemed confused and dizzy. I grabbed a bunch of scrap metal and began to pound it flat. Within hours, I had created a pet to keep me company and to entertain Dad. My eyes widened as the dog's eyes lit up. The tail began to wag, and it jumped up on me, licking me with her little tongue. I giggled and picked myself up and walked to the table. I picked up a round piece of metal with a name tag attached to it. I went back to my dog and knelt down to put it on. "Frank, this is my new pet, Scrap Metal," I squealed. He laughed and petted her on the head. I whispered to her to go find Ben and Senorita, and she ran off. Scrap Metal ran back within minutes, Benjamin and Senorita running behind her. "What do you want, Foxina? And who is this little dog?" Senorita asked, panting very hard. "I wanted to be ready for the opening tomorrow. Still, we have to be on the lookout," I whispered grimly. "Anyway, this is Scrap Metal, my dog. The reason behind her is that my dad isn't doing the best. He's in the parts service room because he's breaking down. I have to stay strong for him. I built this dog to entertain him and keep me company while Dad is out. I hope the kids don't mind. She'll be a sea dog." I chuckled, looking at both Frank and Senorita, trying not to laugh at the faces they were pulling. Benjamin was not the slightest bit amused. He just shook his head at my terrible pun. My pup nudged my leg as if waiting for something. I pulled a couple of nuts and bolts out of my pocket and threw them into Scrap Metal's mouth, who munched them happily. I put her on a lead and took Frank by the hand and walked to the parts service room. After the puppet approved of Scrap Metal being allowed in, I pushed open the door where Chica was doing repairs with Dad. As soon as she saw me, she left the room. "Dad, I have a little someone I would like you to meet," I said happily. Scrap Metal was raring to meet him. I walked to him and showed him my little puppy. "Lassie, she is beautiful. What's her name?" he asked as he petted her with his non-injured hand. "Dad, how did you end up here?" I asked him politely. His face dropped as the words tumbled out of my mouth. "You see, lass, the night guard has been a lot more jumpy and is getting violent. I went to scare her, but she was armed with an axe. I got too close, and with one swing she almost hacked off my entire arm. I have only a few broken circuits, but I won't be up and moving for a while," Dad whispered grimly. I clapped my hands over my mouth in sadness, and tears streamed down my cheeks. Dad smiled and wiped my tears away. "Daddy, I need you. I can't live without you," I whispered, almost inaudible from sadness. He laughed slightly and petted scrap metal again. "Isn't that why you made this little pup?" he asked. I looked at the dog. She had mismatched metal, the reason of her name, and had big yellow eyes. "Yeah, I guess. I should leave you in peace now." Before I left his side, Dad grabbed my arm. "Wait, lassie, I have something for ya." Dad pulled something shiny out of his pocket. "This is a locket that belonged to me, but I think you need it more than I do." He draped the chain around my neck, making me feel proud. I had another brainwave, and pulled out a picture of all of us that was taken last year. I placed it in his hand, watching him blush with pride. I called Scrap over and left the room. I sat at the table in Pirate's Cove, with a mug of hot cocoa in front of me. Frank was watching TV in the living room, and Benjamin was watching Senorita knit a new vest for him. I had the locket in front of me open while listening to its beautiful tune. Senorita sat next to me so she can hear it as well.
"You know you can always have him around now. Come on, stop living in the past. You have always been sensitive, even when you were a human."
Senorita suddenly realized she had said too much. "What do you mean by that?" I asked her curiously. She sighed, about to spill the beans.
"We went to school together, but I was too shy to go up and talk to you. I know you had a massive problem with Ruby, Missy, and Kitty. I was always there when they bullied you, but I was too cowardly to run and find help or confront them in fear of being hurt. I just stayed silent and never said a word to you."
Senorita hung her head low and began talking to her cupcake. There was an airy hello, followed by excited squealing. I didn't say a word, going to the crack in the curtains. "I'm here with Penelope, along with a bag of her things. I will be here to pick her up at 8 p.m., the puppet said, shoving the bag into my hands and walking away. I just stood there with a big bag of things in my arms and a tiny puppet tugging at my skirt. I looked down at her, studying her features and comparing her to the puppet. She had violet tear tracks streaming down her cheeks, a purple and black striped body, and pink lips and cheeks.
"Hi, I'm Penelope. My daddy had things to do in his office, so I have to stay here. Can I come in?"
Penelope asked sweetly, looking at me with big black eyes. I nodded happily, trying to remember how I used to take care of Charlie. Penelope was playing hide-and-seek with my friends, while I made her some dinner, which consisted of steak, sauce, and vegetables. As I cut up the tomato, the most terrible vision came across me. I was too late to save the children from William Afton, watching them be brutally murdered. I was so caught up in the vision that I wasn't watching what I was doing, cutting my finger. I cried out in pain, watching oil spill from the injury. Senorita crawled out from her hiding spot before jumping up and rushing me to the table. She grabbed a small piece of silver metal from her belly bag and placed it on my finger.
"You know, you shouldn't go into traces like that, and especially not when you're making dinner."
Senorita giggled and walked back to her hiding place before being found immediately.
"Penelope, time for dinner. Come get it while it's hot,"
I yelled, placing 2 plates of food and 2 sets of knives and forks on the table. Penelope ran up and took her place at the table and started to eat. I took my place and began to eat slowly, trying to hide my sadness from the little marionette in front of me. I poked my fork at my steak, watching my friends leave my house. When I saw that Penelope was beginning to yawn, I got up and walked over to her.
"How about we put ye to bed? Aye, lassie?"
I whispered in my pirate voice that I barely used, picking her up and going into my room. I placed the half-asleep puppet in my bed and pulled out my father's storybook. I began to read a few minutes into the story she was fast asleep. I smiled silently and put the book away. I flipped the light off and left the room silently. When the puppet came by the cove, I placed a sleeping Penelope in his arms and gave him the bag. "Thanks for looking after her. She's been having trouble sleeping lately," the puppet whispered before leaving the cove. I began to yawn, so I dragged my feet along the ground, finally reaching the door to my bedroom, and entered to go to sleep. The beeping alarm clock woke me, reminding me that it was opening day for the holidays. I jumped out of bed and began to get dressed in my captain's costume, as there was just 30 minutes to opening. I opened the door to see Mom in tears again.
"Mom, is everything okay?"
I asked quietly. She wiped her snout and looked up at me.
"It's just that I miss your father so very much. He's doing better according to Chica. He should be home in a week or so."
Mom sniffled, wiping her wet eyes. I put a supportive hand on Mom's shoulder and took off my locket.
"Mom, Dad gave me this. It belonged to him. He said that if I feel sad because of what happened to him, I can listen to the song."
I showed her the golden spherical locket, opening it so she could see the little golden pirate ship. She thanked me and went to Kids Cove. I stood on the Red Fox, watching little girls and boys playing together when the PA system turned on. "Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, we have a very special show that we are about to perform. Please assemble in the dining area," the man's voice sounded. Watching all the children leave, the last one was a little girl, about 6 or 7 years old, with orange pigtails, a red dress, green eyes, and blue shoes. I instantly knew that it was Charlie, but I didn't have the strength to go up to her. I walked over to Pirates Cove and went to my stage. Frank and the crew were ready to perform. "Girls and boys, I would like to welcome you to the show. These are my friends, Benjamin, Senorita, and Foxina, and I am Frank. I would like to welcome our parents, too. This is my father, Freddie, Senorita's mom, Chica, Ben's dad, Bonnie, and Foxina's mom, Toy Foxy." Frank boomed into his microphone. "I would like to invite a very special girl up onto the stage. Charlie Mitchells. It's your birthday," Frank boomed again. The little girl I had seen leave the Red Fox walked onto the stage, and Frank lowered the mic to her height. "I would like to wish you a very happy birthday, Charlie. And who is your favorite animatronic?" Frank asked Charlie, nodding his head toward me, indicating for me to come up on the stage.
"My favorite animatronic is a very special pirate, and that is Foxina,"
she said boldly into the mic, and I blushed with pride and brought a present with me from the puppet. Her eyes widened as I gave it to her when I entered the stage. She opened the present and lifted a Foxy plushie from inside it. She hugged me with happiness.
"Thank you, Foxina. This is the best birthday present ever,"
she whispered into my ear as I had been kneeling. I watched the children file out of the dining area, watching the little girl walk by herself. As I watched her, my communicator buzzed.
"Foxina, I have spotted William. He's headed to your location with 3 16-year-olds. I'm pretty sure they are heading to the office. Please hurry," Senorita whispered. I headed to Frank and Ben and told them the news. They nodded and ran behind me. Senorita joined me as she saw that we had abandoned the stay in your spot like we planned. I blocked the entrance and looked at the girls that stood at the end, looking terrified. Charlie was the youngest, standing next to 3 girls who looked vaguely familiar to me. "So you girls decided to come with me. Well, that was a big mistake. I am a mass murderer, and I am going to murder you," he yelled at them, watching the girls' eyes fill with tears. "I'm afraid that isn't going to happen, William. My friends and I are going to save them,"
I yelled, watching him look at me in disbelief. He tried to run, but I aimed my hook carefully at him and hooked the back of his shirt, pulling him back, smacking him against the back of the wall. I then unleashed my ninja stars and pinned him against the wall.
"Senorita, now, grab the girls,"
I yelled, watching Senorita dash toward the girls, ushering them into the office and shut the door. I charged up to William, nodding at Frank at the same time, who whipped off his hat, aiming it at the light, bouncing off the mirror and into William's eyes. I stuck my hook right in front of him. He started to laugh a skin-crawling laugh. "Ha ha 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 ha! Why don't you kill me, Captain?" he laughed, showing his horrifying grin. I couldn't believe him. What did he expect, honestly? I knew the perfect explanation.
Because I am better than you were, are, or ever will be. The reason we are all like this is because of you. We will never forgive you for what you did. You just killed to satisfy yourself. My life was perfect and you spoiled everything for us. Dante, Amber, and me, Rose. I yelled at him, watching his smile being wiped off his face. Tears spilled from my eyes, and I couldn't bear to look him in the eye. My anger was getting out of hand. That's it. Let's end this, I yelled at him, retracting my ninja stars. He fell to his hands and knees, picking himself up and picking up his knife before straightening his security guard hat. I stepped back several feet, sticking my hook out in front of me. He charged at me, holding his knife like a sword, and I blocked him. I started to retaliate by pushing my hook towards him. His knife gave out, and I began to run at him. I pushed him into the corner of the hallway, knocking the knife out of his hand. Just at that moment, a voice came from behind me. That's him. He has been causing trouble in this franchise for years. He has murdered a lot of children,
Senorita yelled, pointing in the direction of William. About 3 police officers came over to William and put handcuffs on him. William Afton, you are under arrest for suspected murder and the possession of weapons. You have the right to remain silent, the head police officer yelled at him. He tried to resist, but the officers were too strong for him. The chief came up to me and began to thank me. I would like to thank you, Foxina. If it weren't for your quick thinking, we wouldn't have been able to catch him. He boomed and explained that we were going to be closed down for investigation, but we could stay here. I watched the officers take William away, struggling to break free of their grip. I would have gotten away with it if it weren't for you meddling animals, he yelled as he was taken out of the door. I ran into the parts service room and into my dad's arms. Daddy, did you hear what I did? I asked him, opening my locket, letting the locket play its beautiful tune. Yes, your mother came in here not long ago and told me everything. I'm so proud of ya, lassie. I love ya very much, Foxina the pirate. I don't think there is a prouder father in the world, he whispered through tears of joy. I closed the locket and told him how I did it. It was because of my love for you, Daddy. I couldn't have done it without it. I picked him up and took him back to Pirates Cove, watching police officers looking over every square inch of the building. There is a moral for every story, and mine is, no matter how far others seem, you can get through anything. Well, that's the end. If you have any suggestions of what you'd like to see me do in the future, I would love to hear them. I also have a poll posted for what to do for the 20,000 subscriber special. You can find the link for it down below. Thanks so much for watching this video, and remember, if you enjoyed it, you can leave a like, comment, or maybe even subscribe. I'll see you all next time. Bye!